lmfm.ie. Michael Reid on LMFM.
Now, yesterday saw the establishment of a new group called Protect Rural Ireland, which seeks specifically to unseat 6 sitting TDs, but also to target any TD or candidate in the next general election campaign who supports or who has not openly decried the construction of wind farms across the country. Yesterday there was also a significant ruling in the High Court in relation to planning in this country, following on from a decision made against Bord Namona in extending the lifespan of the power station at Eden Derry. And yesterday Fine Gael TD Regina Doherty announced that she'd been told by an official of An Bord Pleanála that it won't be making its ruling on the Emlagh Windfarm known until the end of November. We're joined now by Deputy Doherty as well as Pádraig Dolan, spokesperson for the North Meath Wind Information Group. And good morning to both of you, and thank you indeed for joining us here on the programme this morning. Regina Doherty, first of all, you were told by Minister Alex White, were you not, that the decision would be known by the end of this month?
Well, actually, it's an official in the board that I've been communicating with over the last couple of months, obviously, to try to keep an eye on when the outcome of the oral hearing is going to be heard, because obviously there's an awful lot of people in my neck of the woods and in Meath who are very anxiously awaiting the outcome of that decision. We were originally, Michael, supposed to have the report to go to the board members for the September meeting. That was changed, and it was then to go to the October meeting, and now this week the inspector has said that his report still isn't ready due to the complexity of the hearings, and he doesn't expect it to go till the 26th of November. But
Minister White had told you that he had expected the announcement by the end of this month.
Yeah, he had. We had met with Minister White on the 1st of October. I just had to check my diary this morning to see, because I knew it was weeks ago, and it was his attempt that day to explain to us the impasse between the two departments, the Department of the Environment and the Department of Communication, Energy and Natural Resources, with regard to the publishing of our new guidelines, which we all had hoped this particular project would be adjudicated under. And I'm now sick of listening to myself, because obviously I think that's a faint hope now at this stage. But it's concerning.
Is there no hope over the next 4 weeks or so? Because as I understand it, the Minister had told you that a strategic committee was to be put in place to oversee this and make its own recommendations on what new guidelines should be.
Yeah, he did, Michael. He told us that day in an attempt to explain to us what was going on, that they couldn't agree on the setback distances. Obviously, one department wants 550 metres, the other department wants anything up to 1 kilometre, depending on the height of the turbine, and they can't agree. And that's fine, they can't agree. So they had decided to appoint an independent expert to adjudicate and to come up maybe somewhere in the middle. Now, that was 27 days ago. I'm not sure how long it takes to appoint an expert, given that we seem to have plenty of them in the country on wind, but we still haven't got one yet, and the clock is ticking for the people in North Meath. And albeit that the decision keeps getting put back a month, you know, even if we had guidelines tomorrow, I have a fear that they'd have to go into public consultation, and so therefore would be immaterial with regard to this decision. But either way, the people of this county and other counties are being treated appallingly, and it's no surprise that the Protest Rural Ireland campaign was launched yesterday morning with specific agendas. But it's extremely frustrating for politicians and for people who are living, you know, in the shadow of this probably potentially humongous wind farm decision to come in the next couple of weeks, and it's just not on, and it's not fair. And what's furthermore is that I noticed from an interview that the Minister did over the weekend with regard to the green energy and renewable industry, or renewable energies, that's going to be launched by the department in the next couple of weeks. The only show in town is onshore wind for the Department of Natural Resources, and that's extremely worrying, given the amount of other renewable sources that are obviously preferable. Minister White talks about the difficulties with the industry and communicating with rural communities and engaging with communities, and he's going to come up with a new platform. We don't want to engage in a more meaningful way. I think the message from rural communities has been loud and clear. We do not want monstrosities the size of twice the size of Liberty Hall, 3 times the size of Liberty Hall in the green fields of rural Ireland. And I don't know. It
sounds as though you're a member of Protect Rural Ireland, that you support.
I'll be fighting to protect my own seat, Michael, obviously, in the course of the coming months. But you know what? That's immaterial, because
are you advocating? Are you advocating this group's strategy and suggesting people don't vote for Minister Alex White?
No, I'm not. What I'm advocating is for the two ministers to bang their heads together and to come up with an acceptable guideline.
But you've just said that won't happen.
Rural communities. Well, I don't understand why it's not happening, Michael. I mean, you and I are talking about this for probably the last 18 months.
Okay.
These are two of the most senior people in the cabinet. They need to bang their heads together and come up with the guidelines. And we may not like them, but at least they need to put something on the table.
Well, even if they did, it's too late, you said.
Well, I believe it's too late. The news from Minister White that day was that he fears it would have to go out to public consultation. Now, we either know whether it's going to have to or we don't know. This is, we're not... I feel we're being treated like mushrooms. You know, the story is constantly changing or moving or evolving. The only show in town now is onshore wind, and so we've discounted offshore wind, we've discounted solar. The emergence of geothermal isn't even on the table for discussion at the moment. We've closed down access to our grid for the next 5 years to absolutely anybody and everybody except somebody who's building onshore wind turbines. I don't think that's an acceptable policy for government. But that's obviously far more reaching than the fact that we have a decision that's now coming down the tracks for North Meath in the next couple of weeks, and we're still 18 months after the initial consultation on new guidelines went out for public consultation. We still have no guidelines.
Okay, Pádraig Dolan, it's too late, and regardless of the two ministers finding an agreed position at some stage down the line, the Emlagh project will obviously be adjudicated on under the old guidelines, despite this extension and the ruling not being known until the 26th of November, and I'm sure that you support this position of Protect Rural Ireland.
I most certainly do, and what I found significant yesterday was an interview reported in the Irish Independent with Minister White, in which he stated that, as Regina said there, onshore wind seems to be the go-to policy for renewable energy, even though most European countries, particularly France, Germany, Denmark, have found that they can produce offshore wind now, offshore electricity from offshore projects cheaper, at less than 10 cents a kilowatt actually, with new technology. But in Ireland here, according to Minister White, onshore wind generation is the way to go. He also said something else that was even more significant. He said that a 1,000 metre setback distance isn't feasible, because if it was to be applied, it would effectively knock out the onshore wind industry in Ireland. Now, that is a most significant statement, because if that is the consequence of a 1,000 metre setback distance, then so be it. Then we don't have a viable onshore wind generating capacity in Ireland. That is the consequence, so be it. What the Minister is effectively saying is that the detrimental effects of ultrasound, as reported by various experts in the field, is to be ignored, is to be discounted, if to factor it in would be to eliminate an onshore wind capacity here in Ireland. In other words, the imperative to generate energy necessities takes precedent for the Minister over the effects of ultrasound on communities living within the footprint of those giant turbines. Now, that's a significant statement. It's a massive statement, and it's in the public arena. I think that the Minister has sold a hostage to fortune there, given that there are already numerous cases before the courts, the most high profile of which is a case down in Cork where 7 families have been forced to leave their homes, and a case is currently before the courts, which I'm not going to comment on at the moment. So the Minister has more or less sold out the communities. He's put the community's health concerns second, and his perception of what our energy requirements are first. That's on the record now, and I think there will be consequences for that.
Okay, talk about the legal consequences a little bit more without necessarily talking about that specific case that you mentioned there a moment ago, because there was a legal precedent of sorts set yesterday by the High Court in looking at the broader environmental impact. What consequence, if any, will that have on this project if it's approved by An Bord Pleanála? Would you be going to the courts?
Well, if necessary, necessary, yes, we will. I'm not 100% sure how Yester's ruling is going to impact on this particular case here. But a number of other developments have taken place, which on Bord Pleanála, I'm actually glad that on Bord Pleanála aren't making their decision until the end of this month, given the amount of material that they have to consider. And a few other developments that have taken place since, I think, are equally significant. The interconnector from Cork to Kildare is now not going to go ahead, and the Grid West interconnector is unlikely to go ahead based on the fact that an insufficient amount of wind farms in the west of Ireland are going to get planning permission that would justify the €500 million spend on the Grid West link. Therefore, the only one that they are planning ahead with at the moment is the north-south intergenerator from Meath to Tyrone. And with that, and with the upgrade of existing high voltage lines that are here at the moment, it means that an awful lot of wind farms that haven't been that won't get planning permission down the west of Ireland will be looking for a new home. And more and more and more, it looks like that new home is going to be County Meath and the Midlands in general, Laois and Offaly and Kildare. So we have a situation where we're about to be swamped. And I think all the listeners need to be well aware today, listening to the show, that County Meath and the Midlands in general is where the focus of this onshore wind policy of the minister.
And it is a policy, it's a government policy that is allowing for this. But when you hear Regina Doherty talk with such sincerity and such opposition to this policy, does it make sense to you, given that she's a representative of one of the government parties that's presiding over this policy?
In a way, no, but it's going to come down to an absolute choice for Regina. Especially for Helen McEntee, because the Emlagh Windfarm, which is the first of it's ahead in the queue, if you like, but particularly for Helen McEntee, because this is on Helen's back door, unfortunately for her. But not only Regina Doherty, take Ray Butler, take Mr. English, Dominic Hannigan. We haven't had a word out of Ray Butler or Damien English. If the scenario that I outlined is going to happen, and I think it is, with the grid links now not going ahead, County Meath is going to be swamped by industrial-sized wind turbines. So those two boys need to come out and stand up as well. It may come down to a situation where government TDs have to make a decision. Do they stand with the people and perhaps even lose the party whip if necessary, or do they stand with the government on this? Here in our group here, the North Meath Wind Information Group, we proposed variations of the County Development Plan, concentrating on wind speed, because we have realised that the wind speeds in County Meath are among the lowest in Ireland. And as a matter of fact, there is experts' opinion which says that it's not actually viable for wind electricity generation at all. We proposed a variation to the County Development Plan to that effect, which has been overruled by Minister Kelly. Minister Kelly wrote to the local authorities telling them not to entertain any variation to the County Development Plan pending new guidelines. Now that is, to me, an unwarranted interference in the democratic process, given that 38 out of the 40 elected county councillors to Meath County Council were about to implement the variation, which would effectively have ended the onshore wind generation.
So it comes down to the general election. Let Regina Doherty respond to the political point in relation to all of this. Do you accept or believe that Pádraig Dolan is articulating the view of the majority of people locally, Regina Doherty?
There's no doubt, and I mean, Pádraig knows that I've been 100% supportive of what they've done since the very beginning. For me, it isn't about. I'm aligned to Fine Gael. I'm a member of Fine Gael all my life, right? That's a choice. It's not a choice for me to represent the people that put me where I am, which is in a seat in Leinster House in Dáil Éireann, to represent them. And I will do that to the best of my ability. And I have been trying since the concept of this application to our grid 18 months ago was raised first in the very smallest of public meetings, in the very backest halls by the developer. There is no support or extremely little support for this particular project. And I note with interest that the white paper, the bits that that Minister Alex White leaked yesterday, the day before in his interview, that's going to be launched in the next couple of weeks, is that he wants to make it easier for communities to invest in wind farms. He wants to make it easier for cooperatives to form in rural communities so that they can benefit both financially and in terms of energy development in rural communities. He wants existing structures, but the whole payback thing from people who are not involved with communities to give back to. None of that is relevant with regard to this particular project in Meath. And Pádraig is absolutely bang on when he talks about the fact that places in the west of the country and in the southwest of the country are now being effectively cornered off by decisions of EirGrid to our onshore wind farm developers, right? And we are now left with the perfect storm in the counties of Meath, Kildare, Cavan, Monaghan, for no other reason than speculation, that we will have industrial-sized farms around every second corner of field if we're not careful. And the book for me stops with the fact that I am vehemently opposed. And he's right, this isn't in my back garden. I live miles away from where this is going to go. And I couldn't be more opposed to this, because around the next corner could be around my corner. And I have no problem saying that I do not want to live next door to a turbine or 46 turbines that are 179 metres tall. And if it costs me my seat or my future in politics, well then so be it, because I intend on living in Meath for the rest of my life, and I don't intend to be a TD for the rest of my life. So this is far more than my association with Fine Gael. This is about the association with my county, my home, my family's future development, and the people that I share this.
Could it result in your disassociation with Fine Gael? Could it result in you standing as an independent?
You know what, Michael? I don't know, and I appreciate the question, but I don't know. But for me, this is a far bigger question of supporting something or not supporting Fine Gael. This isn't about, a Fine Gael issue for me. I will continue within Fine Gael with the power and the influence that I have with my own party and with my interaction with Alex White and Alan Kelly. And by speaking to people like you and by writing letters, which probably sometimes seem a bit futile, but words are all I have at the moment. I cannot be strong enough in the terms of how I will represent the people of Meath to tell both Minister Alex Kelly, or Alan Kelly and Alex White, get your act together, sort this out, because we in Meath will not stand for it.
Okay, I'm running out of time, but I want to give Pádraig a final word. And I suppose you could empathise to some degree with what you've just heard, because it is an evolving situation, and it's not one that has come to a conclusion where you'd expect anybody to make a final decision, I suppose.
No, I'm not so sure how Minister White's community buy-in can be applied to a situation here in Emlagh, where the owners of the project are effectively an American conglomerate. So I'm not so sure how that can work. In fact, I don't think it can work at all. I repeat what I said earlier. Minister Kelly put his foot on the neck of Meath County Council when they were about to implement a proposal that might have put a stop to the thing. Minister Kelly is a member of Fine Gael, is part of the government. So our four Fine Gael government TDs can now make a choice. Are they with us, or do they support a government that supports Minister Kelly's action? That's probably the bottom line at this stage.
Okay. Got to leave it there. Thank you both indeed for joining us here on the programme this morning, though. Pádraig Dolan is a spokesperson for the North Meath Wind Information Group, and Regina Doherty is a Fine Gael TD in Meath East.
LMFM.